we're going to talk about simple, compound, complex sentences. These notes are going to go inside your writing notebook on the next clean page, and on the top, with the title, I want you to write week 4. The first kind of sentence that we're going to talk about this week are simple sentences. These simple sentences are just independent clauses. It contains a subject and a verb, and it expresses one complete thought. For example, I have 2 examples down here. Some students like to study in the morning. Students is your noun, like is your verb, and it's one idea. I know that the students like to study in the morning. Now, the second sentence down here has a compound verb. That means that Amanda will be doing 2 things. She's going to go to the library, and she studies every day. This is still a simple sentence because it's talking about one person doing 2 things. We'll talk more about this in class, okay? Go ahead and pause the video and write down these notes, and then press play. The second kind of sentence that we're going to talk about this week are compound sentences. Now, a compound sentence is 2 independent sentences conjoined by a coordinator. Coordinators are words like for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So when you see these words, that's a huge clue that this is going to be a compound sentence. Let's look at this sentence down here for an example. I tried to speak Spanish, and my friend tried to speak English. If I took out the coordinator, I would have 2 simple sentences. I would have 2 independent clauses. I tried, I is your noun, tried is your verb. Friend is your noun, tried is your verb. I tried to speak Spanish would be one sentence. My friend tried to speak English would be the second sentence. We can combine those 2 ideas by adding a comma and the coordinator, and. We practiced this a few days ago. Write these down, and then press play when you're finished for your next kind of sentence. Complex sentences. Complex sentences are just one independent clause and 1 or more dependent clauses. Complex sentences are always going to have a subordinator. Subordinators are words like because, since, after, although, or, and when. You can also have a relative pronoun like the word who or which. When you see these words here, that's a huge clue that you're going to have a complex sentence. Now also keep in mind that these words do not need a comma to be part of the sentence. But the coordinators, like before in the last slide, those needed a comma. On the next slide, I'm going to show you some examples of complex sentences. So go ahead now, pause this, write these notes down, and we'll start on examples on the next slide. All right, here are 3 examples of complex sentences. When he handed in his homework, he forgot to give the teacher the last page. When he handed in his homework is a dependent clause. We have that word when, which in the last video we called this a dependent word. This word is making the sentence a dependent sentence, and the comma is another clue. It's separating it from the independent sentence. The sentence, he forgot to give the teacher the last page, can stand on its own. This sentence cannot, but when they combine, they make a complex sentence. They make a more interesting and more professional sentence. A second example is number 2. The teacher returned the homework after she noticed the error. I can write the sentence, the teacher returned the homework. No big deal. But if I add after she noticed the error, I'm adding more detail and a dependent clause. Your third example, the students are studying because they have a test tomorrow. I can write the sentence, the students are studying. But if I use the subordinate because and add on the dependent clause, they have a test tomorrow, it makes for a much more interesting sentence. And when you're writing for the I-step, these are the kind of sentences they're looking for. So these are called complex sentences. I would like for you to pause the video, write these examples down underneath complex sentences, and for my 6th graders, I would like you to keep going on. My 5th graders, your notes are finished. All right, 6th graders, this year here you're going to learn about compound complex sentences. And these are where you're taking more than one independent clause. So you're going to have at least two or more, and at least one dependent clause, and you're going to put them together. So that means, at the bare minimum, each compound complex sentence is going to have 3 clauses. Let's take a look at this sentence down here. Although it was sunny just a moment ago, the clouds gathered quickly, and the leaves rustled in the wind. Now let's break this sentence up a little bit. Although it was sunny just a moment ago is a dependent clause. We have the word although, which is a subordinator, and it cannot stand alone. This is a fragment if we kept it like this. The clouds gathered quickly. That is an independent clause. Comma and is a coordinator, and it's connecting this independent clause with this independent clause. The leaves rustled in the wind. So I have 3 clauses here. The dependent, an independent, and a second independent. I would like for you to write down these notes in your notebook, and we will be grading these in class. As always, if you have any questions about these notes, you could always send me an email or you can ask me in class.